caught my wife getting pounded by her AP. She exposed her own affairs. Story 1. My 29 male wife says she 29 female wants a divorce. We've been together for over 8 years. We've been dating for 4 years and were married in October. She claims she is unhappy and does not want to have children. She doesn't want a family despite what she's been telling me for years. She wasn't into it when we first began dating, but as we got older, she would frequently remark about how thrilled she was to establish a family with me. She claims that my family, particularly my father, has never really cared for her. She isn't entirely incorrect in this. My father is a little old school and the fact that she wears sleeves has irritated him for a long time. But we've been together for so long that time has a way of changing these things. They get along well today and have never had any major disagreements. His attitude shifted when we chose to marry and it became evident that we would be together for the long term. She claims she has pushed me to alter who I am in order for me to be with her. It's difficult for me to put into words precisely what she means. We've both evolved so much in the last decade and 22 to 29 is a whole different existence. Of course, we've both changed. It's what I call maturing. I can only think of little details and she is quite controlling in the kitchen, so I don't cook as much as I used to. She only does it because she's a tidy freak and I evidently don't satisfy her standards. Haha. Similarly, I was born in the country and was often barefoot in and out of the home all the time, but she likes everything in the house to be just so. I guess you could say I have a bit of a hippie soul and she doesn't. I used to dislike that, but now I enjoy having our tidy house, and it's no difficulty for me to appreciate that for her since, even though we have different home standards, I can respect the work she puts in to keep things that way. She claims she has me whipped into shape, but that is not how I want to live. She claims that because of who she is, she dulls my radiance. It's really difficult to hear that. She is presently jobless. She quit her work during the epidemic in order to supplement her income. She has applied to a lot of various places now that is finished, but she refuses to go back to her former work and rather to collect unemployment until she finds something she enjoys. That one is a little tricky for me. She has earned more than I have for months doing nothing, and although I understood and even supported it at first, the fact that she was unwilling to hustle and even work part-time while searching for jobs irritated me. Missouri is now open with limited limitations, and I have not missed a single day of work throughout this outbreak. I told her as much and also informed her what I expected of her as my wife. I expected her to work at least until we had children, and seeing her so unconcerned about it disappointed me. She has never contributed to a savings account. We have separate checking accounts as well as a joint savings account. She has nearly never added to it, and despite earning more than me and being off work for many months, she has not contributed to our savings. She has paid off a few $1,000 bill, which is fantastic, but given how much she makes, she has basically squandered the money. I just wasn't expecting it. I got home from work, had a shower, and she summoned me into my room, saying she wasn't pleased and that she wanted it to stop. She said that she was no longer physically longing for me, despite the fact that she loved me. Obviously, this one did a number on my self-esteem. I work out on a daily basis, and although I'm not the fittest I've ever been, I used to be overweight, and I've prioritized my health and bodily fitness over the past decade. I assume the gap was created by my playing too many video games. We get out and watch movies or binge watch series, but we also respect each other's space throughout the week and after a hard day of work and training. I've certainly slumped down at my computer to game with pals more times than I probably should have. She claims that geeky things like that don't bother her at all, and it's the stuff I like, so I shouldn't feel obligated to adjust anything for her. She claims it's more complicated than that. I adored her and was overjoyed with our life together. Knowing she wasn't is heartbreaking. I feel responsible for her happiness and as if I've let her down by not doing my bit to emotionally connect. But we often make jokes and laugh. We are true buddies. We were planned a vacation together soon and had an appointment with our bank this week to discuss first-time home buyer financing. I also believe it might have been a spark. She claims she wants a family and a country home, and even though she said she did, now that we are making those steps, she is having cold feet and says she doesn't. I'm not sure what counsel to provide since I've never been in this situation before. It seems quite genuine, and she appears to be really determined. My self-esteem has been shattered and I feel as though I have failed my marriage. I have always tried to put her first and to adore her. Our life was frequent and excellent despite the fact that it was completely unexpected. She appeared to care about us. She had an affair with me. We've been together for 8 years and married for over a year. She stated she wasn't sure if we were going to work and that it may be better if we split up, citing a number of concerns that had arisen years before. However, we had already gone through them and hadn't seen them in years, so it didn't make sense. After posting another anonymous Reddit post, I approached her and received some advice. I booted her out after she confessed to sleeping with another guy. She had been home non-stop with the flu and seemed to be borderline sad. She has since told me how much she regrets it and how much she loves and is attached to me more than some person she had just met for a few days. but the idea that she met a man and then ended up cheating on him is absurd to me. I've never had anything but total faith in anybody. This shocked me and was completely unexpected. We intended to apply for first-time home buyer financing the same week it was released. She is now living with her parents, and we communicate on a regular basis. Depending on the time of day, I felt a great deal of rage and melancholy. She believes she wants to work through it, but she also plans to spend a week in the mountains with her family to reflect. I am at a loss on what to do. On the one hand, she broke my trust, but on the other hand, I've never loved someone like this before, and I value our marriage and prospective future if she's ready to work through it. But then I wonder whether she'd respect me if I returned her, if it's already too damaged. If she makes the decision, maybe the grass is greener on the other side. I'm simply puzzled and don't know what to do. I've tried not to speak to her too much while she's been gone, since it's either an emotional conversation or me being a jerk, both of which end up hurting me. Help, particularly from others who have gone through something similar, but I am open to different points of view. Edit, I have a great deal of affection for her family. They are definitely all heading to Colorado, not her or the newcomer. We chatted again yesterday night, and we wept a lot and talked about our relationship. She has consented to spend the next several weeks with her relatives a few hours away. They will be in Colorado from the 22nd to the 29th of this month. She told me she needs to feel whether this is a mistake and that she doesn't want to talk to me until she does. After that, if I'm available, she wants to speak with me. She swears she won't speak with this other man either, but I don't trust her. I apologize to her for everything. We are all human, and I adore her unconditionally. She doesn't appear interested in couples counseling and instead prefers individual therapy for herself. She said that I let her walk all over me, which led her to lose respect for me. She also said that she has had intimacy difficulties for a long time and doesn't know how to address them. We'd have once a week, maybe twice a week, and it would always be fantastic, and we would feel connected, but simply interacting seemed to be more difficult than it used to be. She would often shut me off, and it always appeared to be on her terms. Her family has pledged to keep me informed in secret on a regular basis since they all adore me and want it to work out. During this difficult period, they have been blessings and showering me with affection. Mentally, I anticipate it to be over soon. I'm going to spend the next few weeks getting back to the gym and concentrating on what I've been losing out on while she's been gone. It will be tough not to reach out, but I must. If this is the end, she agreed that we may dissolve the marriage and nothing bad would happen. Not that I have anything she could take anyhow. My friends and family have been quite supportive, and I received a lot of fantastic advice from my first post. I'll update you when we meet and discuss in a few weeks. So much has happened since I posted the 2 postings seeking help on how to handle a scenario I never expected to find myself in. I've been living alone for a few months now. I've filed for divorce, which will be an entirely uncontested process. I consider myself lucky that we did not have children or buy property together. The past 5 months have been the most difficult of my life. I also lost my work not long ago as a consequence of some bad conduct that started soon after the affair was disclosed. I'm working 30 hours a week for a landscaping firm right now, and I'm happy for the money to help pay the expenses. My friends and family are fantastic, and they love and support me tremendously. I've just started seeing a girl, and I like her. She fits a lot of the requirements I have for a companion. However, I still have a callousness in my heart. After over a decade with my STBXW and being caught off guard by infidelity, I simply don't see the world the same way. I feel as if my innocence has been stripped from me and I see the world as it is. It improves and I have many more pleasant days and moments than negative, but I still experience those horrible times and will most likely continue to do so for a long time. I'm having difficulty trusting and feeling deserving of love. I was sleeping around a little at first and I got a lot of conflicting advice. Some of my pals think I'm crazy for sleeping around since I'm simply using females. But I talk frankly and honestly about where I am emotionally and what I am willing to commit to. Some friends and family advise me to have fun and not close myself off and become too jaded. It's difficult to develop a true connection when I can't help but imagine that over a long enough timeline, a possible partner would get bored and just cheat or leave. I truly want to get married, have children, and live the old-fashioned, loving family life that everyone talks about. I've had a few married or in a relationship females sneak into my DMs, and that really irritates me. Where are the females who want to love and be loved, who have morals and ethics, and who want to go beyond the surface levels of a relationship? It seems to be a characteristic that is missing in the individuals I encounter nowadays. There's not much more to say. I haven't made any huge decisions, such as moving away and depleting my 401k or anything else out of the ordinary. For the first time in my life, I'm loving living alone, plus I get to keep the puppy we adopted together, which means the world to me. I'm hoping to acquire a job with benefits again soon and to start working in the direction of purchasing some property and a house. I'd want to thank everyone who DM'd me, commented, or gave genuine counsel and comfort in any other manner. It's good to see the internet behave positively every now and then. Reddit is unquestionably a fantastic resource. My main focus right now, I suppose, is healing, self-esteem, and all that jazz. I simply wish my heart wasn't so cruel and my demeanor wasn't so dismal. I assume it's just going to get better from here. I really hope so, since we could all use a little compassion come 2021. Story 2. Cheat on me with my best friend. I'll wreck your career and publicly humiliate both of you. SH. Ted and Sarah have treated my wife and me like family for numerous years, almost since we moved in across the street from them. We were really close as a group of 4. Our children are the same age as theirs and are best buddies. We were all one huge family. We ate supper together many times a week. We have trips together. SH. Ted was like a brother to me, and my wife and Sarah were close as well. The news of an affair between my wife and SH Ted caught me totally off guard 5 months ago. My wife had left her email open on our computer, and I saw an email from her to her long-standing therapist in which she said that SH Ted would be accompanying her for an upcoming appointment again. WTF is going on? My thoughts raced. Why on earth would SH Ted be attending her treatment sessions without my knowledge? I ran a search and discovered some further emails to and from the therapist, confirming that SH Ted had been attending sessions with her for around 6 weeks. I examined our phone account and saw that they had been sending hundreds of SMS every day since late summer, culminating in about 500 per day by the holidays. In terms of the holidays, my wife and I hosted both our families, parents, siblings, etc. for Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners, and SH Ted and Sarah joined us for dinner or after dinner on both occasions. My wife and SH Ted were messaging each other across the room the whole time they were at our home celebrating with our families, according to text records. For months, they did it pretty much every time the 4 of us got together. And, just all day every day in general. But what disturbs me the most is that they were doing it right in front of Sarah and me. When I presented the proof to my wife, she acknowledged that she and SH Ted had fallen in love. It occurred right now. I'm not sure how, but I adore him, and I'm sorry I don't feel anything for you anymore. They'd gone on a school district trip together, something had occurred in her hotel room, and things had escalated rapidly. She stated, as I lay face down on the sofa, unable to look at her, that they had already made preparations to move out and divorce me and Sarah, and that although they didn't intend to move in together right away due to the kids, they would most likely do so soon. Meetings with the therapist were purportedly largely for the purpose of finding a gentle way to break this to me and Sarah, since they were so worried about our well-being. Sarah and I am very persuaded that they had no intention of informing us about the affair at all, and that they intended to discover their affections for one another many months later, when they'd found another cause to divorce the 2 of us. My wife left 2 months ago. I was still and completely shattered. Every day, I weep. I was crying when I wrote the first few lines of this narrative. I'm always concerned about the influence on our children, but I'm also not a shrinking violet when I believe I've been mistreated. And in this situation, I was objectively terribly mistreated. So, a few of years ago, SH Ted ran for a seat on the Board of Education as a huge underdog. I assisted him with campaign materials and debate preparation. And my wife, a well-known school district employee, this will be significant later, spread the news as best she could. To our amazement, he won in a squeaker by just a few hundred votes. SH Ted's universe revolved on his position on the board. He volunteered for every committee he could find. As they were frequently attending to school activities and meetings together on nights and weekends, this became the basis of his affair with my wife. When I discovered the affair, my thoughts soon moved to vengeance, and it seemed to me that an extramarital affair between a member of the Board of Education and a school district employee was at best poor politics and perhaps a violation of district policy. Making matters worse for them was the fact that my wife was in the running for an available administrative post, and everyone knew she was almost certain to get the job and the significant salary boost that came with it. She had just completed her master's degree in school administration at the request of her principal and superintendent in order to be promoted to this precise post. I had lots of proof of the affair, including messages from both of them confessing to it, text records showing that they were messaging hundreds of times per day, emails to and from the therapist, and so on. I contemplated just sending all of the proof to the board and the superintendent, but I was concerned that as the grieving, betrayed husband, I would not be seen as a reliable source. Instead, I made up a bogus furious buddy who planned on attending the next board meeting and publicly humiliating the 2 of them for their affair. I informed my wife that I'd attempted to talk them down but couldn't promise they wouldn't come up and publicly disgrace them. As I predicted, SH Ted came to the conclusion that the only way out was for him to acknowledge the affair to the board ahead of time. SH Ted agreed to quit when the superintendent advised it. He was embarrassed and saddened, according to Sarah, and he couldn't get out of bed for a few days thereafter. When news of the affair and SH Ted's departure spread, the superintendent, a longtime friend of both my wife and SH Ted approached my wife and emotionally told her that she would no longer be promoted to an administrative position within the district. An outside applicant eventually filled the post that had been set up for her. This caused a flurry of uncertainty and speculation around the area, since it was well known that my wife had gotten the position. Despite our failing marriage, my wife and I took our kid out to breakfast on his birthday the day after she was told she wasn't receiving the promotion, and a parent dropped by our table to congratulate her on her new post. She thanked him and excused herself to weep in the toilet for a bit. I waited a couple of weeks for the dust to settle before telling them my little secret. There was never a furious buddy threatening to expose them in the first place. It's just me. All of this has spread across our very small town where Ted grew up and where my wife has worked for over 20 years. My wife refuses to tell me how things are going at work right now, but I've heard from certain people I know in the district that her once clean reputation has taken a knock. Ted, who was formerly a boisterous social presence in our area and at local events and bars, has entirely disappeared and only emerges to mow his lawn. He's leaving shortly to a run-down small townhouse that's all he can afford because of all the child support he'll have to give his wife. Despite the public humiliation, my wife and Ted insist that they want to attempt to work things out. I wish them the best of luck. I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun for them to show their faces about town together. Here's a record of their messages and phone conversations from a few months before I found out about the affair. Obviously, their phone numbers have been removed. Answers to some often asked questions in the comments: are you and Sarah together now? That would be amazing if you could be a thing. No, we're good buddies. We've been tremendously essential to each other from the beginning, and we've undoubtedly grown closer, but not in the manner everyone expects. This would be so much more difficult to cope with if I didn't have her to depend on, and she claims she feels the same way about me. After all, we're in the same position with the same players. Ted hasn't moved out yet, but once he does, we want to bring the kids together more often, like they used to. It'll never be the same, of course. She already comes over with the kids on occasion, but it's difficult with Ted's continual presence across the street. Didn't your vengeance harm both sets of children? No, not at all. Ted had a day job. The Board of Education was his pastime and passion, but it had no effect on his income. And my wife has been promised that if she wishes to apply for an administrative job with another district, she would get wonderful letters of reference from her superintendent and principal. It'll require giving up a lot of business ties in the process, but given the blow to her reputation, I'm assuming she'll do it sooner rather than later. Meanwhile, since she is not going to an administrative position, she is still able to spend her summers with her children. Why do you refer to her as your wife rather than your ex-wife? We're moving through divorce mediation, but it's not yet final. It will happen shortly. Why didn't you see all of your wife's texting? Yes, I did. It was really beginning to irritate me. It was overkill. She has a large social network and texts often, but it was getting out of hand to the point where she was entirely neglecting me and the kids. I asked her to agree to a no phones at the dinner table rule in November, which she grudgingly agreed to but then pouted during dinner, and finally she simply resumed using her phone throughout dinner again. All of this to say, I was deafening. Not only was the messaging becoming strange, but her friendship with Ted was making me uneasy. Sarah had observed it as well and agreed. We approached them directly about it a couple of times, and they both swore up and down that it was just school topics they were talking about, and there was nothing more going on. And for whatever reason, we believe them, possibly because the mind refuses to perceive what it does not want to see.